my clients wear Fitbits. I have all my clients wear Fitbits, and I care about one thing: what's your step count? Which I also
Yeah,
know.
it was hard. Towards the end, they weren't feeding him much at all. Maybe 25 grams of carbs a meal, if that. And
This episode is brought to you by First Detachment. First Detachment is an expert formulated supplement company founded by renowned coach Justin Harris. Battle tested. Are you? Find your battle today at firstdetachment.com. All right. Hey, YouTube, thanks so much for tuning in to the First Detachment channel today. Got some exciting guests, new co-host. We decided to fire Justin Harris. He's no longer. I'm kidding.
Gone.
I'm kidding. Justin's just had some family things tonight. So my co-host John Rivas tonight. Appreciate you joining us, John. Tom Mouland. Did I say the version right that you would like, or?
Yeah, close enough. Yeah.
All right, we were having kind of fun before we went on, but yeah. So Tom's joining us. If you don't know, a ton of great content he puts out there. He certainly could train, bodybuilders and elite athletes and stuff, but he's got a little different than maybe some of our recent guests approach, where he's doing a lot of. I'll let him speak on it more, but at a first glance, like I'd say some really cool like health stuff, fitness stuff, weight loss stuff. Really knowledgeable. He does a lot of good engaging content. So that's why I said, hey, let's get you on the channel. Let's talk about it. We'll maybe do a few share screens if we can, or at a minimum, point people over to your Instagram, which is Tom the Trainer Fitness. So really cool stuff for our audience out there. But thanks so much for joining us, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I know we were talking a little bit before, just for the audience out there. You are in Canada, right? That's where you're originally from, right? Born and raised in Canada.
Correct. Yeah. So I live in Peterborough, Ontario, in Canada. I grew up in a small town called Lindsay, which is just maybe about 40 minutes away or so. And I spent some time actually living in BC for about 7 years or so, and then came back here in 2014, pardon me. And then, and then just been in the Peterborough area ever since, which is like, if people aren't familiar, it's like a couple hours away from Toronto. Like you could probably get to Pearson International Airport in about 2 hours. And if traffic's good, a little under that.
Got it. Yeah. And you worked with Justin a while back, right?
Correct. Yeah. I worked with Justin for a couple of years. Right in and around at the time I was still like, I worked for a corporate gym, Good Life Fitness, which is like the largest gym corporation in Canada. And it accomplished some things with them, like many awards and things like that. And set some like accomplishments with them that were rare to do, I guess. And then I started working with Justin because I made a claim about the amount of muscle that you could put on in the course of a year. And some of my colleagues at Good Life were like, you're full of shit and you don't know what you're talking about and this and that. And, my claim was like new lifters can put upwards of 20 pounds on in a year, if not more, with the right genetics, with the right style of nutrition and training. And everybody was just like, yo, you don't know what you're talking about and all this. And I was just like, okay. And I followed Dave Tate a lot, and I knew of what like Justin had done with Dave Tate, and was listening to Justin. And I'm a information junkie.
Yeah.
And like a nerd at heart when it comes to this stuff, which isn't necessarily what you see on my Instagram platforms and stuff, because like crisp to the point and catchy is what works there. So I've worked on that as opposed to being wordy. And anyways, Justin was just super knowledgeable and super smart in the things that he was talking about. And for me, if I ever want somebody to mentor me or teach me things, I want to look for somebody that knows more than me, have an open mind, and learn from them. So everybody was saying like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, I'll hire this guy who's been doing it with people and watch me go kind of thing. Right. So instead of like fighting with him, I was just like, yeah, watch me go. Right. And then I learned a lot working with Justin. I would actually say he was pretty an integral influence in where I'm at today through my online coaching from the time I spent working with him, actually.
Awesome. Yeah. And I appreciate that input, because I think there's a lot of people out there that pump out content, and, it all comes from a lot of the same source, but they'll kind of almost like play it off a little too much like as themselves, and they're really just paraphrasing someone else. So I think it's I think it's really beneficial for coaches. And John, I'd like, you're a world record holder and accomplished a lot too. And you've had different coaches, so get your opinion on this, but you're so much better of a coach as well as an athlete, right? So not only do you accomplish things, but then you just learn different perspectives and you're coachable. So, that's kind of something even many people that watch this know kind of my story in the early 2000s. Like I trained with Justin and then he would help me with my prep. And, I had a really, good foundation with working with him. But still kept my mind open to learn other things. And then I circle back and would ask him later. And it turns out like we're agreeing on the same stuff, so it was pretty cool. But John, what's your perspective on that as far as like being a high level athlete and working with coaches and being a high level trainer and still working with other coaches?
It's hard sometimes a little bit because you don't, how do I say this? Sometimes what works for you and you want to stick to that, especially if you're doing really well. But the easy part is, I guess what I'm trying to say is the ego, right? For some people, it can be hard if you have an ego, and who's to tell you not to have an ego if you've accomplished a ton, in your given sport. But then I think the best rule to go by is never, the moment that you stop learning, you stop improving. So no matter where you are in your sport, you can always learn a little bit more. You don't know everything, but yeah, I think the hardest part with guys or gals, especially more towards top tier, they probably reach out less to learn than people who are more newbies. But it's really important, no matter where you're at in your progression, to constantly learn.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Like if you could take one nugget away from somebody, like you're that much better, right? And I think like that's a like huge statement as well, because like, clearly you've accomplished some things, right? And then, I've accomplished some things, I would say, like relative to maybe others. And I think like we've had a willingness to listen to others, but you do see a lot of people, like, especially in the day of like social media and stuff like that, where like, if you say anything that contradicts what somebody's belief is, it doesn't even seem like there seems to be any like critical thinking or thought process behind like what's being said or how you can apply it to me, like yourself. And me personally, every bit of success that I've ever had in my life hasn't been based on my own beliefs solely. It's been on, I'm in an environment at work and these guys are doing really great and they're doing better than me. What are they doing that I can apply and put my spin on it? And what's this guy doing that I can apply to put my spin on it? And then you have this like hybrid version of your own tactics, whether it's work or working out or nutrition or whatever that you come up with. But like, you would have never come across that if you didn't have a willingness to like listen and learn from others and take from it what you may and leave what you may. Right.
I think, and Tom, you're in the gym all the time, right? So, because you own your gym, right?
Correct.
Okay. So yeah, you have your own gym. So, and Joe, I know Joe sees this too, where he's training at. There's a little bit of different, it's more of like the fitness culture, right? It changed with social media, whether it's good or bad. I mean, it's great. The world's a lot smaller place, but it's bad because, like you said, it gives everyone their own little soapbox to stand on and preach what they want or say what they want to say. And then, with the culture now being the way it is, where people, I mean, for all intents and purposes, like, have become soft. And if you tell me something that I don't agree with, or I might not have thought of first and I get jealous, then I'm just going to, try to cancel you or disagree with you and yell at you or, argue with you or block you. So like you said, Tom, like I remember going in the gym. Oh my gosh, I was like 15, 16 years old by myself, went and got a gym pass, a gym membership. None of my buddies from high school were doing it, but I was just obsessed. And I would go in there and I remember seeing the biggest dudes with like 22-inch arms. And because at this time, there was no classic, there was no men's physique. It was just bodybuilding. You were a bodybuilder or you were nothing. And I remember seeing those guys and I would watch. I would just watch. And, even if he was doing something wrong, I respected him because of the information, like the knowledge and stuff that he has. So, going along with the sort of ego thing, even if you've accomplished a lot and there may be someone who might not be as strong as you or might not have achieved as much as you in your sport, there's still a good chance they may know something that you don't, or you don't know. So, it's important in that aspect to, like you said, sort of watch the guys and people who have the big guys and just learn,
Yeah, take from it what you will. Like my approach now, and adapt and pivot. Like my approach now to what I do now compared to what I did when I was first a trainer, compared to what I did learning, like it's totally different. Even like as recently as a couple of years ago, the way that I do things now is totally different than what it was then. Because I don't get stuck in my own headspace to say like, this is the only way and there's no other way. And then you just have to adapt and pivot. And if you get stuck in with like, this is the only way and there's no willingness to change, I don't even really know what to tell an individual with that kind of mindset, because like we're supposed to change. Our opinions are supposed to change. Like that's progress, right? And if you get so headstrong on like there's only one way to do something and you have no willingness to learn or watch from somebody else, like you're going to be disappointed in your success regarding anything in life if you have that approach, I think, right?
Yeah. Well, talk a little bit about your approach to content. You mentioned it, earlier, but can you just kind of walk through like, maybe some nuggets of information that you're putting out there that I think maybe the first we'll try to tackle is things that you find that people are finding really helpful, maybe tips or things that maybe some of our viewers might not even know, or people who see this episode.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what I've been finding with my own content lately is the biggest thing that hits is form videos. For me, I also kind of like leaned into my strengths on it as well, is because like I've always been known as like a guy who just seemed to get movement, and I used to do rehab and I used to do all kinds of other different things than what I do now. But like the funny story is one time when my fiance now and girlfriend then was squatting in the gym, she was working with another trainer, and that client looked at my fiance and was like, wow, look at her squat. And the guy was like, that's Tom's girlfriend. Like she probably sits down like that when she gets on the toilet and stands up, like, because I'm just like a form and I just like get it. So for me, I've leaned into that. Plus I also love teaching that. Like my favorite thing to do as a trainer is to teach people how to move better and get more out of their movements. So I've just leaned into that. And the biggest feedback that I've gotten has been upon my demonstrations on form. And I've been seeing a lot of success. So I've been trying some different things lately. Like the thing with social media is you kind of want to you have to grab people's attentions quickly. So I used to just be like, if you want bigger pecs, like do this. But like Instagram's like, yeah, we're not down with that noise. Like it's useful information and it's helping the people who are seeing it, but it's seeing nobody, right? So sometimes you got to be a little more abrupt in your delivery. Like for example, one of the hooks that I've been using lately is your whatever muscle part looks like shit. Because
I like this. This is why your triceps suck. Like,
yeah,
your legs look like shit. Awesome.
Yeah, and those are hitting. But also, I feel like let's be real. Like nobody walks around and goes, I think I want a better pec. Like nobody says that. So when I do my content, I got to get into the minds of the people who are wanting to learn from me. And what are they saying? Like people say like their wives say to their husband, I look like shit. My ass looks like shit. Or, like my guys say, oh, my arms look like shit. They're not like, well, I wish I could develop my brachialis a little bit more, at least not the people of which that I'm speaking to. Right. So my biggest thing is like trying to get something where they're like, yeah, I do feel that way. And then showing them the solution to it. And my biggest thing lately has really just been on quality form and angles. Like I can just kind of look at something and be like, okay, cool. Tricep extension done like this is going to hit tricep. But if I can angle a little bit this way, then I'm going to get a better pull. And then when I'm in the stretch, and then when I get a better pull in the stretch, then when I contract, if I can just shift my body weight a little bit this way, I'm going to get more tension in the contraction and those kinds of things. So those are some of the things that I'm kind of talking about in my content, but then also like basics, how to do a plank and things like that, right? Like just basic movements. So that's where I find the most of my content that's hitting, and I seem to be getting a lot of really good feedback from, especially on Facebook right now. Like reels are hitting on Facebook for a lot of people, and I'm getting a lot of people who are like, oh man, I love this. And my thought is like, okay, well, because that like your chest looks like shit hook is not necessarily how I normally speak to people, but if you're loving it, okay, I'll keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, let me at Tom, going along with the way that people put training or advice on Instagram now. Have you noticed that there's been a shift from, do this exercise, blah, 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 to people taking a simple exercise and trying to overcomplicate it with, it's like they looked up a thesaurus while they were doing their caption, and just so they could put some jargon on there. And it's like, you're just doing a single arm row, right? And using your lat muscle to pull it down and controlling and contracting, whether it's scapular retraction or whatever you're doing. But it's almost like they're showing this movement, and it's almost like people almost want to be confused, because if like they don't understand it, if lifting is basic, eating is basic, it's basic, but people don't want basic. They want something that they don't understand, because it almost makes them feel like, oh, this is the secret. Oh, this is what's going to happen. It's no. The consistency, the dedication, doing the basic stuff over and over is going to get you the results. But I don't know if you've noticed that on Instagram, it's a lot of people are pushing more for this. Like they'll take, like, for instance, in the female world, everyone wants big glutes. Okay. Big quads, big glutes. That's the thing now with wellness, of course. And so they'll take the same glute booty movement and do like 80 variations of it. It's hitting the same thing, right? You don't get 80 different types of glute muscles, right? So it'll be like, oh, well, this one I added a band. This one's a different machine. This one I'm doing this. It's like, it's almost like people are forgetting the basics, and guys like you who are saying, hey, this is how it works. This is how you get the results. You almost have to, like, have you found yourself? I won't say you are, but have you found yourself trying to go down that loophole? Or are you sticking more to like, hey, here's how to basic stuff to help people actually understand it, instead of trying to confuse people just so they feel like it's, this crazy secret?
yeah, no, like I haven't. So like I'll say like that, like I've been guilty in the past and evolution of as like being a trainer who's an information junkie, and I've taken so many certs and stuff like that. And then maybe like regurgitating some of the things that I learned through the certifications, through, like, for example, like Jordan Shallow, one of his certs and stuff, and he articulates himself well. I can articulate myself really well as well. And I used to kind of explain things to my clients in the gym, being like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to fire your serratus and you're going to do this and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, for me, I loved it because I was like, and I was doing that at the time with clients in person, just because like I was like amped up and energetic about the things I was learning and feeling like I was happy, like teaching it to people. So, but like, I do feel as though that it can go a little bit too far. And sometimes I feel like there's like a lot of people on social media who are like, I'm going to go on social media because I want to sound smarter than everybody. And if I use these big words that people don't understand, then I'll be smarter than them. And they're looking for like, I'll argue some of these people like are just there for like social value and nothing else. You know what I mean? And then they're the trainers who are like pissed off because the guys who are simplifying things so people can understand it are doing better than them in life and business and whatever. And then, it's like, well, I'm smarter than that guy. It's like, well, maybe, but like nobody understands, pardon my French, what the fuck you're saying. So stop trying to be so smart and put it in a way where people can understand it. And because do you want to help people or do you want to sound smarter? Like, right? Like, it's like, do you want to be smart or do you want to help people? You can be both. You can be smart internally and help people by simplifying things.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I do see that for sure. And when it comes to like making made up stuff, I don't browse social media a lot in a sense because I'm so busy and stuff. And when I'm on social media, I'm intentional about what I'm doing on social media. But like when I was in a corporate gym, like some of the stuff that I would see that I would be like, they had to get that off the gram. Like this one time I saw this girl in a Smith machine on an incline bench, upside down,
No, sir.
kicking the Smith machine back for a glute kickback exercise. And I'm like, what the fuck is she doing?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you know, the trainer probably was like, hey, I know if she does this, she's going to tell her friends, and you know, she might get the same exact results doing like,
or she might have saw it on Instagram.
Yeah, or a different type of lunge or something. And you know, but I think that the way Justin normally says, I agree with him on this. He says, if you can't really understand something fully or prove that you understand it until you can take a complicated subject and explain it at a 5th grade level. And that's when you really understand it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or even a 3rd grade level. Like I've said that lots too, right? Is like, talk to it. If you can teach it to a 3rd grader, then you're smart. But if you're using all these like big fancy words and stuff, because like sometimes I have people come at me on social media, like trainers and stuff who come at me, and I just like sometimes I'll play with them a little bit because like why not? And it'll help. Sometimes it'll just help drive exposure and stuff. So I'll just like let them play back and forth. But like there is this like niche of trainers who are like, I'm a trainer, but I'm a smart trainer, and then like you know what I mean? And like
trying to be different, you know?
But you're just regurgitating. I think, like, and I don't know.
Yeah, unless you're a researcher, we're all regurgitating. Unless you actually did the research, you're just repeating what others have done before. Not for the majority of it, right? At least your foundation.
Yeah, there's nothing new out there. Like, there's nothing new out there, right? And if it is new, it's probably just for eyes. Because, like, I know I built my body on the basics, and I've had 280 some odd transformations with clients with like the basics and the foundations, you know what I mean, for the most part. And then you can get into intricacies on execution, on exercise to maybe bias specific muscles. If you're a bodybuilder who needs to bring up specific parts, or maybe you have some nagging issue and you need to improve a muscle to improve your your muscle development to improve mobility or things like say in your back or something like that. Or maybe you're rehabbing an injury. Like my right lat and my whole right side was just worked over from a neck injury, and I had to rebuild it with some intricacies. And now I get into intricacies just because I think it's fun. But like for the most part, just like basics. And if you see like really ridiculous looking stuff, then like they're I don't know, they're just making stuff up. Because if every trainer just went on the internet and was like, do the basics. Here's my workout today. Squats again. Like nobody would look at anything, right?
Well, let's take a look at some of this actually, because you said a couple things. I wanted to grab this really quick. So tell us a little bit about, I think there's a couple of posts that really caught my eye that I want to talk about, but talk about a little bit about some of your transformations. I mean, it's pretty cool. Like he was 15 pounds, definitely tightened up quite a bit. Yeah. Anything coming to mind on any of your transformations you have here?
That guy was cool to work with. Like, this guy was really cool to work with. But that first one that you showed, I rebounded him out of his cut, and I brought him back up to 236 without losing sight of his abs within like 3.5 months, I think it is. Don't quote me on that specifically because I'd have to look at my transformation photos. But this guy was awesome. He was a former bodybuilder that I connected with. Started working with me, fell in love with what I did. He referred his wife, his aunt, his dad, his wife's uncle, and like 4 friends to me or something like that. And he was awesome. Like he's probably what I would say is like my ideal client, because it's like, here's what we need to do. Let's do the work. And he's wired like, and, you know, he's a former bodybuilder, right? So like he's going to do the work. And you just give him the path. He was a lot of fun, especially doing the rebound, like rebounding him on like 20 pounds in like 3 months without losing sight of his abs. It was like, yeah, that was sweet, right?
There you go. What about this guy? Looks like a pretty big drop here in was that 12 weeks?
Yeah, so that was his 12-week transformation. He wound up losing over 100 pounds and did his first transformation contest, and he won, I think, 2nd place in it.
Nice.
And that was fun too, because we got to like water manipulate and things like that. and he lost. It was over 100 pounds. I think on stage he was 240. I think his goal was 245, and on stage he was like the day before the stage he was like 243 or something like that. He worked with me for actually 15 months and lost over 100 pounds. He was sweet. He was sweet to work with. Again, just an awesome guy. That he was a guy that like you had to be like, dude, you're doing too much. You're eating too little. And then I finally actually convinced him to like slow down, because as a coach, we know sometimes you got to just let people do their thing, and you got to know how to work with people and all the different like personalities. And with him, he was like really like more cardio, less food, and then he kept seeing progress. I let him do his thing, and I kept dropping nuggets. And then he got to the point where he plateaued, and I was like, okay, are you ready? We're gonna pull back on this. I put an extra 800 calories into his diet. Got him to like steady out for about like 4 weeks or so. And then boom, he just started like dropping some more. So that was really cool too, because it was an opportunity to teach him, like to teach somebody that like it doesn't necessarily have to be like balls to the walls to get results. But his mentality was of such where it's like, okay, well, you know, he's not somebody that I could have like maybe bluntly called out based upon his personality. So I just kind of let him do his thing until it came time where it was like, okay, now it's time to do less kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
Also an awesome guy to work with though. Right.
Good deal.
I'd rather work with somebody that I got to like rein in than I got to push. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got some experience with that too, John?
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, you find out without giving away too many specifics, because I don't want to do that, but for the individual or a couple individuals, most of the clients that come to you, you know, if they're paying an amount of money, whatever it is, they're going to listen to you, right? That's why they hired you. And that's why we're here to help. But you do run into some that will sometimes either question, that's just in their nature to be like, well, I don't know, you know, and then sometimes I can lead them down the wrong path, because then they start listening to other people, too many cooks in the kitchen. And it's like, well, hey man, you know, I'm giving you this plan that I see long term. You don't see long term. I know how the steps are to get to where you want to go. And you having all these other people input, or you questioning this and that, you know, that's why we're not getting to that point. Or that I say, probably Tom, and you've probably had this, when you look at someone week to week and you're pushing them pretty hard, and there should be, let's just say, fat loss at least a pound a week with the amount that you're pushing them, if anything else, right? At least a pound. And you're like, this person's not dropping any weight. Yeah. And then you find out some while later, there may have been things they were doing that they didn't tell you about. And then, you know, you sort of feel a little bit better, because you're like, wow, I was racking my brain trying to get it to work for this individual. And I thought it was 100% my fault. But, you know, sometimes people aren't always very truthful.
Yeah, and that's an odd thing I find. I had one guy, for example, and again, not like getting into too much specifics, that like same thing. I was just like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And even just like where he was holding body weight and stuff, I was like,
I think we're on the same. Yeah.
I actually sent him to a doctor to get like blood work and be like, I want to see your blood work, and everything came back normal. And I was like, okay, well, like,
something's going on.
You don't necessarily need to call people. Like, you can't turn around and be like, dude, you're lying to me, because like we don't know what's going on. I sent you for blood work. Your thyroid's good. Everything is good. Your testosterone levels are fine. Your estrogen's not. All these things are fine that I've looked at. And then, but you're telling me that, I don't know, I'll over exaggerate for the individual. You're telling me that you're a 240-pound male, and I got you on as much food as I would give to my 170-pound fiance, and she would
You wanna
lose
lose
weight
the
on
pounds.
that, and you're
Yeah.
not. Like, come on, you're
Mhm.
like, just be
Mhm.
truthful. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You hired me to help
Yep.
you. Why
Yep.
aren't you allowing me to?
Yep.
But I think like as an individual, and I don't know if you've experienced this, is I found an experience in my career once where like I worked with a guy who was just like really, really, really difficult and really, really, really argumentative. And I found sometimes you got to care as much as the person you're trying to help does. And I think sometimes you also have to be like confident enough and secure enough to be like, I don't think this is a good fit anymore. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think you're getting what you want out of it. And you can word it nicely. You can be like, I don't know. I don't seem to be and my advice doesn't seem to be helping, because you're not going to be a jerk and be like, and you're clearly not listening to my advice, but you know, then you can just go your separate ways. Cause that's also exhausting for us. Like, we're doing this because we're trying to help people.
Yeah. I had a client one time. Everything was written out, following everything to a T. Like, hey, this is for a show. And so things are very specific. And, I'm trying to get update photos because I won't be there. And, the whole carb loading process and this, that, and the third. And when, the individual doesn't follow any of it, and then, they send you something like instead of let's say they were supposed to send photos for 2 days straight, right? After every meal. And the only photos they send you are like the night of the show at 9:00 at night. And, they didn't get to the show till 5, like literally when they were closing down shop to get your spray tan and stuff. And then they're like, hey, I don't look good. And like a couple days before, they were amazing. Like they were ready to go win the show. And then they're like, I don't look good. I'm like, okay, well, did you follow everything? And it's like, no, I didn't eat like 3 meals here. And this, I'm like, well, I can't do anything. Like, it is what it is.
Or they overdo it and spill over.
Huh?
Or they overdo it and they spill over.
Yeah.
They've done this long, hard cut, and then they get to the point where it's time to really dial in. And then like, they're like, because that's hard too. Like, and I'm sure you've been there yourself. I've never done shows, but I've done photo shoots, right? But there's times where like you're getting ready for your photo shoot and you're like, okay, I eat this piece of cheesecake or whatever. And you eat the piece of cheesecake and you look at yourself and you're like, that was awesome. Let's have another piece of cheesecake. Like, no.
Stop right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's go through some of your posts out there. I think just to kind of unpack, because I did not click on them yet. So why does my Fitbit suck? So I saw one of your posts about your Fitbit sucks. So tell me why my Fitbit sucks.
Yeah, so I talked about that. Is just like, I think like people have this like misconception about the tracker, right? I have all my clients wear Fitbits. And I care about one thing: what's your step count? Which I also know is probably not overly accurate, because I got a standing desk and I got a little treadmill under my desk, and it doesn't pick up my steps. However, it does allow for me to know the consistency of movement readings. And if I can dictate those to increase over time, I know what to play. But people will be like, oh, I looked at my Fitbit and it says I burned 700 calories in my workout, so I'm going to go eat that piece of cheesecake or whatever. Right. I earned it. And it's like, well, you didn't. And you did, like, I don't want to say you didn't, but like, you didn't burn that amount of calories. So whether you feel you earned it or not, whatever, if I'm not your coach, that's your decision to make and your goals in your life. But like, you didn't burn 700 calories in a 45-minute workout. I don't care what your Fitbit says. Right. So the thing, I think my intro to that was like your Fitbit, Apple Watch, whatever, is keeping you fat,
right?
Because it's lying to you.
Yeah. What are step counts like if you had let's say beginner, client, intermediate, and then advanced? What would be different daily step counts that you set for them? Is it the same? Is there variations there?
It's different. Like I have an intake form that I do with people, and it's really dependent on their activity levels now, and it's evolved over time. I think the best thing that we can do as coaches is get as much information as possible. Understand the personality type of the person that we're dealing with. Like, for example, the guy who lost over 100 pounds, if I told him to get 10,000 steps, he'd get 12 or 15. Yeah. And I know that. Yeah. So it's really dependent on the individual, their existing habits and where they're at. But also, are they type 1 personality, 2 personality, or 3 personality, where type 1 is going to do exactly what I do. Type 2 is going to do 20% more, and type 3 is going to do 20% less, or tell me, or type 4, they're going to tell me they're doing it when they're not, right? So it's really just dependent. But usually I wouldn't say I go lower than 8K, but I like 10K as probably like a good baseline start. But if the person's already doing 12,000 steps, then obviously it's just individually based, right?
A lot of our audience is pretty generally more serious trainers, athletes, etc. But maybe I'll ask a few more questions about some things because maybe they have family members and friends, like I know I do, where they're like, well, I'm just not you. I was like, well, I'm not asking you to be me. Like, I'm asking you to be healthy, right? So, or I want to encourage you to be healthy, or whatever the case is. I'm not saying they're unhealthy. They're coming to me saying they are, and then asking questions about how to do it. So, have you noticed people that have a hard time getting into movement, just getting started with those steps? Like, is there any certain philosophy or approach to get them moving? And I can kind of unpack what I'm asking a little more after I give you a chance to respond here.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm sure there's people out there, but for me, like, I'm in a situation, I don't find it a ton. Okay. But I would also say though, like, before a client even gives me money to come on, I have 3 expectations of them that I make clear as day. And if you're not willing to do those things, I won't even take your money or take you on as a client.
Yep.
So I do screen people a little bit to protect my own energy, make sure that my reputation stays high and I can deliver my promises to them. Because if there's 100 bricks to build this house that we're building together, they got to carry 50. I got to carry 50. So I'm pretty good at making sure the people that I'm helping are going to carry their 50 bricks. Right.
Right.
And then if they're not, it's really dependent on your personality, right? Like, what do they thrive on, right? Like, so for me, as an example, I'm somebody who thrives on recognition. So if you're like, dude, that thing that you accomplished was awesome, that's awesome. I'll thrive on that. If you tell me I can't do something, or like I'm wrong, that pushes me harder to go and do it. Hence, like, I hired Justin for that same reason. Somebody was like, that's wrong. And I was like, okay, watch me go.
Right.
Or like, are there people who, like, if you get in their grill a little bit and piss them off, then they'll do it, right? It just depends on the individual. And that's all about understanding the personality of the people that you're dealing with. No, but also, like, I'll say, like, as a coach, if like you have a lot of people who are trainers and stuff, you said, like, do you. So make sure that you're bringing on the people that mesh with your coaching style, right? I don't like cursing and calling people out and stuff like that as a style of coaching. I don't do it. I don't like it.
Sure.
I've got somebody who says that's what they want, so I do it, but it's generally not my style. And so it's important too for your own energy to kind of just like seek the people who are going to respond to whatever kind of encouragement, accountability, and stuff that you like to deliver. Right? Because you don't want to work with 50 people that drain you, because you got to be somebody different to get them to be successful than who you are. And I think that's key if we're talking about in relation to advice tips to trainers.
Yeah. No, I had a really interesting discussion with some people the other day about the difference between motivation and discipline. And I have to give credit where credit's due, where I stole a lot of it from Jocko Willink when he talks about discipline. His book, of course, everyone knows Discipline Equals Freedom, and some of his quotes, but I think he just articulates so well. It's always been in my mind, but like I'm not motivated to get up and go for a run, go for a walk, whatever. It's like, well, I think you're not disciplined enough to do it yet. And I can say it about myself. Like, I've been working on getting my activity level up earlier in the mornings. I just mentioned before I started recording, I'm getting a late night workout in because I didn't do that this morning. So my thing, at least recently, has been like, I'm disciplining myself to read a number of pages every morning. So like I have to read every morning. So mine are like, I got to put my finger in the camera so you can see movement, reading and journaling every morning. So I'm doing like half of the reading I want to do. So I got a long way to go. But when I'm in that habit, like, it's like, I'm even at a whole nother gear. So anyways, my point in bringing that up is I'd be interested to hear both your thoughts on the difference between, is there a difference in your mind between discipline and motivation? What does that look like with people when we're trying to apply it to ourselves as well as others?
Yeah, go ahead, John, if you want. I know I kind of chatted on the last thing there.
Yeah. Motivation is fleeting. I say this with buddies, right? And friends who sort of come in my circle, and I can open up to them, and I say, they'll be like, what do you think about this person or that person? And maybe this individual is overly excited about what they're doing in fitness or type of training or posting online, and or competing, and I tell them I can tell right away. I mean, I've been doing this for 19 years now, and not coaching, but training consistently and eating and stuff. So I tell them, I said he's not going to make it. I said maybe 2-3 years that individual won't make it, and they'll be like, "What do you mean? Like he's so about it right now?" I said he's about it because it's exciting, because it's new, because it's fun. Like you said, Tom, he's getting those 20 pounds, those newbie gains.
Mm-hmm.
But that goes away. And I can tell right away, does this person, do they research? Do they look at the history of what they're doing? Whether it's a sport, do they have passion for it? Because it's more intrinsic, right? What we're doing in fitness in general is all internal, right? So the external motivation, whether we're watching YouTube videos or we see a bodybuilder or someone we want to look like, we saw someone in a magazine, that's all external. And that goes away after a while. That's exciting at first, but unless you have a passion and an intrinsic motivation internally to be like, hey, my goal is to learn to continue this for a lifetime now, not just, hey, I just want to squat 400, which is great. But then when you get to 400, it's like, well, what do you do now? Or sometimes guys don't even make it that far and they make it halfway and like, this is good enough. Right. So like I said, I think motivation is fleeting. It's fun at first. After, and Tom, you've been doing this forever. Joe's been in the game 20 years lifting with, pros and stuff like that. And there are days where, for instance, Joe's got to work out late tonight. He's got a family. I don't want to go to the gym. There's so many more things I could be doing. And it'd probably be healthier if I just rested, to let everything calm down, cortisol levels and everything, but we can't, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to be disciplined in order to do that. So I think discipline is greater than motivation for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think like motivation is something that you can capture to get going, right? For sure. Especially me, where I deal with a lot more general, like Gen Pop, I guess, would be our classification of, what kind of people we train with. Like motivation is something that you can definitely capture, and then you want to get them some quick wins so that motivation sticks and stuff.
Yep.
But then you got to kind of like be able to educate them on the importance of consistency. I think both are great, and I think both are great, but both are different tools at different times.
Yeah. Based
upon who you're working with, where they're at in their stage, and whether that's somebody new, motivation, great. But also, like, I don't know, motivation for me was to put on as much muscle as I could before I did my first photo shoot. So I was motivated to do the photo shoot. You know what I mean? So and I think it's like motivation comes and goes. Absolutely. I think it's really smart to take things that'll motivate you, to jumpstart you, and have those things so that you can use them to motivate you, but also use those things to stay consistent because the end goal is there. So I think both drastically rely upon like really clear goals. Like I've got life goals that are here in my wall that I look at every single day. I recorded a video every single day that I talk about the things I want to accomplish this year. And I listen to it every single day on my way to work to help keep me consistent. But if I didn't have those goals, my motivation be gone in 24 hours, or anybody else's would. Right. And consistency definitely won't stick. I think both are super important. And I think they're both like different dials to turn at different times. Consistency is key. Absolutely. But sometimes maybe you should use motivation to ramp up or whatnot.
Yeah.
Right?
It's like a manual car. You need all the gears, but first gear is important to get you started, but that's not going to take you halfway across the nation. You're going to break down at some point, and that first gear's got to go into second, third, fourth, so on and so forth.
I'll say a last thing on this topic. Got a couple others I want to hit, but two things. John will probably laugh this. Maybe you too, Tom, will get it as well. But I know John will because of recently. So you can tell in a prep 4 weeks out if someone's going to be in shape or not based on how motivated they are. Because if they just are dragging their behinds and just don't want to talk to you, I'm like, I knew John was going to look great at the Arnold because he texted me saying he didn't want to talk to me one night. He's like, bro, please respect this. He was very nice, but I'm like, oh yeah, John's going to be ready. I was more pumped about him, declining to meet than I was if he would have showed, because I was like, all right, he's going to be in shape. I was like, he's hurting, man. And you have your ups and downs, but like, or it's like the guy at the weigh-in, right? Like the dude with the sunken in eyes who just looks like he's going to fall over and he's not talking to me. Like that guy before he takes his clothes, like, just shirt off, whatever. You're like, that dude's not in shape. He's way too happy. He's just way too bubbly. Like, not a chance. And I know it's different personality traits, but just more. And as a percentage, you're just like, dude's too happy. No way. Like, I just remember. I remember walking around my house with like a hoodie on. I'm in my own house. Like,
and that's 100% like the competitor, right? Is when it gets hard, it's like blinders and everything shuts off. Sometimes, unfortunately, even family. But how is that, Tom? How is that with more Gen Pop? Because I do have a few Gen Pop, but and by Gen Pop I mean general population, not necessarily hardcore competitors. I don't think I have as many as you. I think more of mine are competitors. So how do you see that? How do you know when, someone's about it, someone's really, going to make it?
Yeah. Well, I think like for the biggest thing that like I think is like I'm really good at like reading people. So like when I'm taking on a client or something like that, I can usually get a pretty good read on somebody based upon just what they say, how they respond to things that you say. And you can kind of over the years know when somebody's full of what, or when somebody's like at a point where they're like, I want to make change. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to do the things that are necessary. And clearly I'm motivated. So there's that, but then also like their goals, right? Because a big part of like what I'm doing with people is determining what their goals are. And if their goals are like really, I don't know, they don't seem to be like overly important, then like I'll probably doubt that person will even wind up being a client. Because like, I want to lose a little bit of weight. Like something that I ask now when I'm on the fence with people, and I'm like, I don't mean to be like overly open or blunt with you or anything, but I only take on people that I know I can help, and I'm just uncertain of some of the language you're using. Are you committed to these goals? Or are you interested? And like, even then you can tell the response, right? Somebody's, oh, well, yeah, like I'm committed. And they just kind of like go on this like long ramble to like sell you how committed you are. You're just like, okay. And then somebody's like, no, I'm committed. And like, that's it. A few words. You're like, this person's committed. They're not selling me. Right. That's kind of how I would kind of look at it. Because obviously, like what you're doing, John, as an example, like working with competitors, like that's a different animal, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I think I really like what you said there with they're trying to sell you, because you can almost tell this is the same spiel I'm going to hear when you have the excuses. You're way too good at selling me this. That means you're probably going to sell your excuses the same way. Like you said, I'd rather have someone be like, okay, what do I do? Okay, let's do this. I'm willing to do it. It's going to be hard, but yeah, with competitors, I would say that the way that you can tell is it's more physical, right? They skip a workout. They might not push themselves as hard, and they might still even do the workout, but you can tell, okay, you're not training, because I know what it takes to get to certain places, and you're not even close. You were all about this 2 weeks ago, but life's getting a little hard. You're getting tired, and now your workouts. Oh, I skipped these exercises. Oh man, I was tired. I just went home. Only did half the workout and stuff. That's how I can sort of tell. They're still doing it, right? And they're still kicking butt, but it's like I can tell when they start fading, and it's like, okay, right.
Do you ever feel like you need to factor like a person's surroundings a little bit and get a feel for that with them, like life surroundings and stuff? Because I imagine with competitors,
so the way that I coach especially is very non-pushy. Like I'm not going to force anything. I don't force anything. Anything, supplementation, competing, even if guys just want to get big, right? So not all my people are client or competitors. A lot of my guys who compete are first timers, and I'll be like, hey, if you want to do this, cool, I'll support you 100%, but you got to be about it, right? And if they're about it and they start doing it, I will be more lenient on newer people, of course, right? I'll still be tougher than I would on Gen Pop, but I'll be more lenient with a competitor that's his first time. I want them to experience, to have fun with it. I want them afterwards to create a conclusion on their own where it's like, yeah, I want to do that, or I don't want to do it again. I don't want to have any I don't want to do it because John made it hell. Like, that's not the goal, right? So now the guys who are like, hey, I've competed a few times, I want to turn pro, this and that, my goal is to do this, this, and this. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to be as tough on you because nobody's tougher on me than me. And I'm going to be just as tough on you. And if you want that, cool. If not, then you're going to have to find somebody else. But yeah, all the people competing first time and just trying it out, I'll always figure out what they do for work, how their recovery is. A lot of the guys that I train down here and gals are military, right? So I'm down here in Virginia Beach, Virginia, Norfolk, home in NATO down here. So the big carriers come in and, mostly Navy guys down here, and their schedules are crazy. I'll have a client, he'll go on a 6-month deployment. I had a guy recently, I'll give him a shout out, Trey. And we were communicating every week. He was on a carrier, and he promoted some first attachment stuff too. But yeah, it was hard. Towards the end, they weren't feeding him much at all, maybe 25 grams of carbs a meal, if that. And this guy's trying to be a great powerlifter. So you have to factor certain things in with recovery and other aspects of that, especially when guys are trying to push it to like squat 5, 6, 7, 800 pounds. You have to factor in, okay, what is his lifestyle like? What is he doing? Does he have a family? Because I care about that. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to give you, unless you're in a deep prep, I'm not going to give you cardio twice a day if you have a family. Not going to happen. So that's going to take, it's going to be too much stress, because then in the long term, you're not going to be able to stay with the program, and then you're just going to give up completely. I'd rather you do a little bit and stay with it than burn yourself out. Your family hates you. You want to just, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I can attest to that, because I've done 3 different photo shoots, which is not the same animal, and I'll never claim that it is, but
that's still tough. You still get in shape.
Yeah. But the one time I did a photo shoot, so smart call here, right? I did my first photo shoot. I booked my next photo shoot within 11 months, opened my business online, and then opened my studio. My studio opened in September, and my photo shoot was in October. And man, you want to talk about a grind of a photo shoot. Yeah. I had to do so much more cardio than I normally do for any of my other photo shoots. And I had to eat so much less, because stress levels of starting a business, opening a studio, yada, 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 family life, etc. Man, it was hard. And it was just because of the stress that was going on in my life at the same time. Smart idea, Tom. Put on 11 pounds in 11 months and book a photo shoot, open a business, and then decide to expand into a gym, all within, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's key, for sure.
The one thing I do tell my clients, though, all of them, whenever they decide to go into competition, I want you, they say, well, when should I do a show? When should I do a show? I'm like, well, it's up to you. I'm going to go off your schedule when it works. So they figure that out. But then I say, I need 3 months. I need 12 weeks of where you're not traveling, no work changes. You're not going to be gone for 2 weeks because of work. Lifestyles that you can control and that you know of is going to be consistent for 12 weeks.
Right.
That's what I need. And so that's the first, hey, if you're going to be gone in 4 weeks doing some type of military training or doing some sales for 2 weeks in California, nope, do another show.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, good deal. We'll wind down with I know we're coming close to time here. You had a long day in the gym there, Tom. So we're going to hit you first with a couple more posts to have a little fun with it. So I got one for you. Talk to me about the dry scooping a pre-workout.
Yeah, like give me a break.
It's another online thing.
Yeah, they got it's off the gram. Somebody did it, it went viral, and then everybody does it. It's like pre-workout is supposed to deliver a pump and give you some energy. You know what I mean? Where do you think your pump is coming from? A ball of chalk in your gut? Like it's coming, like you got to drink water with it.
Right.
So yeah, I just think it's absolutely ridiculous. I tried to put a funny spin on it.
Yeah,
you know, like it's ridiculous. Don't do it. And also I think I said pre-workout's supposed to give you a pump and give you energy and improve your workouts. First of all, if you're dry scooping it in the change room, it's not even kicked in by the time you get to your workout.
Nope.
Right? So drink it like with water, like please, for the love of God. And
yeah, if you're dry scooping WTF, we might give you a little bit of leeway on that, but still drink it, still take it with water. Don't dry scoop it. No,
yeah,
I'm kidding. But talk to the group about the was it why your chest sucks? Was that the one that picked up quite a bit on Facebook?
Yeah, why your chest looks like shit.
Oh, looks like shit. That's even better.
On it.
Even better.
That seems to kind of be hitting actually, and it's funny because I did a few of those punchlines to get started, and I was like, oh, I don't like them. It's not like I don't like cursing that much. I curse, but like there's a time and place for everything, right?
Sure.
And you never know who's seen it. But anyways, so I did, your chest looks like shit, and it's because you're doing too many barbell bench press variations, and there just seems to be this like, I don't know. Everybody thinks because like Arnold talked about, I mean, who knows where it comes from? My thought process is like Arnold had this amazing chest and he talks about the importance of barbell bench. And yes, absolutely, for sure. He built his chest, but he didn't just do incline, decline, and flat bench press. And those were his chest exercises because that's what built his chest. Like also, how many of us have the genetics of Arnold, right? Like, the guy's rib cage was massive. I don't know if we've seen him at 16 years old. You know what I mean? Like the guy was just a genetic freak, but also his body composition he was genetically gifted to have great pecs. And how much of his pec development is pec development and how much of it is rib cage angle, right? And how much of the fact that his rib cage angle played into the fact that barbell bench was a great exercise for him. Guess what? It's a great exercise for me to develop my chest as well, because I got long arms and I got a big rib cage in relation to my hips. It's on a fairly steep angle. And when I get down into a bench press, it's a fairly good exercise for my chest. But that doesn't mean that like, if you want to build your chest, just go meat-headed up and do incline, decline, and flat bench. Like work with other machines, cables, flies, Barbell bench is an amazing exercise. I classify it as an upper body exercise because if anybody knows how to bench, and like John, you're working with powerlifters and stuff, I think you said, it's like, we all know that like your lats, your upper back, your shoulders, your triceps, like you're not isolating the pecs to absolute failure on a bench press that's going to equal a level of muscular development. It's an amazing exercise, like for fat loss, even, right? Because it's a good basic exercise. But you're not like, if you want muscles to build, you got to put a ton of tension across them. You got to take them to failure. And like, if you're in the gym taking your barbell bench to failure, then like, I'm sorry. And I understand why you're commenting negatively on my post because you clearly don't get it. Because like, that's not an exercise to take to failure, right? It's like, use machines where if you go to failure, you're safe. Use machines where you can put an elbow position that might be riskier with a bench press than it would be in a machine that has all this external support and cams and levers and stuff, because all you're really doing is like staying on pec and managing that load with just your pec, not your serratus as much and all those things. And people just went off, right? Like to the point where one guy this was on Facebook, like one guy commented on it, and I swear he sent me a touched up picture of his brother who's got an amazing chest. But I looked at the picture and I'm like, I look at 2,600 pictures a year of clients, and like there's something wrong with this picture. And if you're claiming that this guy built his pecs with nothing but barbell bench press variations and sending me a touched up picture to prove that. I don't know what we're doing here, but that just is social media, I guess. Right. But
yeah.
Well, if you go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just, you get, like you said, Arnold probably had some of the craziest muscle bellies for pecs ever. Like, I mean, Ronnie was similar in the way that like his pecs sort of hung, right? Most of the time people's pecs are on their chest and whatnot, but Arnold's like hung. Like he had these huge pec muscles that when you see him sitting down, they almost take up half his body, like his upper body. So he just had insane muscle bellies. Anything he did, and if you go back and you look, there are tons of videos and pictures of Arnold doing dips, tons of pictures of Arnold doing.
Let's watch Pumping Iron.
Yeah, in Pumping Iron, he's doing pullovers, he's doing flies with 60s. So it wasn't just the barbell. I'll say this just to rattle people's cages. When I was.
Oh, right when he's going to rattle people's cages, he froze.
That was like,
and we're not going to edit that out because that's like perfect, right?
Yeah.
I will say this while we're waiting for John to unfreeze, but I was talking with Matt Wenning a couple days ago, and he was talking about like the reason why people have shoulder injuries is their upper back weakness. He said he won't let him touch a barbell for like 8 weeks because this builds up the upper back. John, you froze.
Okay.
How are you going to rattle our cages? Everyone is watching and wants to know.
So I was saying I was a 242. I was the world record holder for the total in 242 pound class. And a year after that, I started bodybuilding. So when I got on stage the first time after benching, I was benching right under 550. It was getting to the point when I stopped competitive powerlifting. And, when I was a natural athlete on Team USA and all that stuff, IPF and USAPL, I was benching almost 500 natural at like 21 years old with long arms. I had the biggest bench in the nation, drug-free in my weight class as a junior out of all the open and everything. So I knew a thing or two about bench press. And my first competition, I was 212 to 215 on stage. Let's just say 215 body weight. And now I'm looking on to go on stage at around like probably a little under 260 at nationals this year. And I benched twice last year, flat bench, twice. So, it's one of those things where, and I haven't gone over 315 in about 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. So it's just, don't get stuck in some of these things that just because you see a genetic freak on Instagram or you're comparing yourself to Arnold, who had just, if you know physiques anyway, you see that he had some of the craziest muscle bellies. His pecs don't look like other people's pecs. And so, you can't get caught up in that stuff. So,
right.
Yeah. I think a lot of people like they hear something and then they're just like, well, this guy did it, so that means I got to do it. But I don't know, like let's put some critical thinking on things. I got a post as well about the same with like barbell curls. I think it's like they're like, I don't know what the punchline was on it, but it's like, let's just say like your biceps look like shit and your elbows hurt because you go in and you do straight barbell curls. Because Arnold, the man, had awesome, amazing arms. Like the guy reading his book literally changed my life as a young man. I read that book and that's what like got me into everything.
The Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding?
No, like his bio. I came from a really difficult background, and like reading his book gave me hope of like accomplishing things, right? I came in a poor environment growing up. But anyways, it's like, so he said that it's the best exercise. That's great. But are you built like Arnold? Because I'm built in a way where, I can do straight barbell curls. Similar to Arnold. I'm not going to say even near similar, different proportions and everything, but I have long arms relative. I have a pretty long torso relative to my rib cage width and my chest rib cage angle. So I can do straight barbell curls and line up on bicep in such a great straight line. But most of the people, and I'm going to exaggerate it, and the camera, you can't see it all. Right. Most of the people are doing this on their barbell curls, and they're like, oh, my elbows suck. And it's like, well, yeah, you're not built for them. Do an easy curl bar or do a use a dumbbell or something. Well, Arnold did it. Are you built like Arnold? Do you have the skeletal structure of Arnold? Like, I
Well, he
think
used an
people
arm
are used
blaster
to
a lot.
like this, right?
Yeah, even a straight bar though, he'd use preacher or the arm blaster, like it locks your elbows in. I mean, he still used he did straight bar also, but you can see a lot of videos and pictures of that. But no, it's a good point. Again, just for all the viewers out there checking us out, be sure to look for Tom on Instagram or Facebook. He's on all the social media channels, a lot of great content. And again, you'll get a good laugh out of the title for sure. And then you'll also learn something as well. So I think that's one of the reasons definitely why I wanted to have you on. And it's a little different guest than we've had recently, because it's more, I think, on the training side, general population side, and education side, which is definitely appreciated. So, but as we wind down here, Tom, wanted to take you through our shoot, move, and communicate round.
We go.
Got some
shoot, move, communicate.
Got some of our questions we asked all of our guests here on the First Detachment channel. So we'll kick it off with first and foremost, can you tell us about a client you're most proud of? I know there's many, but if you could just pick one to share with us, what is a client success story that you're most proud of?
Yeah. Like there's so many, and there's probably like a close, like, so transformation. I can't pick one. I'll be honest.
Sure.
So transformation wise, probably the lad who lost over 100 pounds.
Yeah.
He actually won a training giveaway that I did. And the reason for his training, he's okay with me sharing this, is that like he felt that he wasn't being the best version of himself and wanted to be his son's hero and role model for his son. So that's why I gave him 12 weeks of free training as part of a giveaway thing that I was doing. And then he signed up for a year. And like the guy just like, his results were just amazing and so inspiring. But I would say like the one that I'm probably like most proud of was back when I was more focused on rehab work back in my days of learning and evolving. And there was this young man named Isaiah who got hit by a truck getting off his bus, got hit by a truck and was on like life support and like almost passed away. And a lot of people were really confused as to what I was going to be able to do with him because of like structural skeletal damage to him and stuff. And the things that I was able to get him to do with like deadlifting and teaching him how to squat and all these things when like he had structural issues and the way he felt about accomplishing those things, like give me goosebumps talking about it. Cause like that was like life changing, and a young man who literally, got hit by a car, like a truck. So that's probably one I'm like most proud of personally, was because of that. Right.
That's awesome. Next one is talk a little bit about something, from a business standpoint, something that you're most proud of, an accomplishment, either through your education or through, business. What sticks out to you?
Yeah. I think like maybe the most pivotal moment was just going for it, because I wanted to be a trainer my whole entire life as a young man. And then I decided I was just going to go for it at like in my 30s after having a really serious back injury. And I like literally like limped around the gym training people until I rehabbed it. But like the most thing I'm proud of 1000% is like going out on my own, starting Tom the Trainer Fitness, and like the impact that I've had and the growth that I've experienced in doing so. Like last year alone, I transformed over 100 clients, and the growth that has come with that, me personally, because as business owners, we all know, like, you're just viewing constant challenge and problem solving and staying consistent. So like, I would say that's what I'm most proud of, is definitely just starting the business and the impact that it's had on so many people's lives, more than just physically too. Right. Like,
yeah, that's awesome. All right. Next one is, if you had to pick one word, to describe, or that you would give to a up and coming trainer for encouragement, what would that word be and why?
Confidence. Like confidence. One of the most powerful things anyone ever told me, one of my first mentors told me, who used to say all the time, was confidence is the number one predictor of success. So if you want to do great at anything, like, believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Trust me, when you're doing great, there's going to be people who are going to try to make you not.
Right.
So you better be strong enough to believe in yourself. And
Right.
any of us who have accomplished anything know that the stuff that comes with that. So you better believe in yourself and be confident in yourself, because people will try to peel that away from you when you're separating yourself from them. So 1000% confidence.
Yep. Crabs in a bucket, right? Anyone
Yeah,
who
man.
doesn't know that reference, go Google it. It's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. You do not need a lid on a bucket of crabs. Good deal. Well, next one is as far as your one word to describe kind of like that ideal client, or maybe a word to describe their mindset to have success in a transformation. What would that be and why?
Yeah, I mean, I got to say committed.
Good deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know we unpacked that quite a bit earlier. So a couple last questions here. So if you had to miss one, a meal, a night of sleep, or a training session, what would it be?
Oh, man. If I had to miss one, a meal or a night of sleep, that's such a hard question. I guess a meal, because like I'll make up for it in the next one. You're not catching up on sleep.
What did Justin say? Justin said sleep, right? He said he missed sleep he wouldn't miss food.
So it's been interesting. Like, it depends on the person and where they are in their training too, I noticed. So yeah, we had some others that just said, oh, I don't even care. Like I think it was Chris Duffin was talking about, like, he's like, oh, I love to train and I love to sleep. So I just eat later. All right, cool. If you're in prep, you're like, I am not missing a meal, right? So it all depends. Depends on the guest. I think it depends on the guest and where they are in their training.
Well, way back in my life, like when I first blew up my back and stuff and like had to change what I was doing for a living, I went into serving and I worked graveyards for like years, and twice per week I didn't sleep like I've had so many 24 plus hour periods where you're just grinding because it's what you got to do to survive, and you got a life, and now you got to go work a graveyard and all that kind of stuff. I've had so many nights, like I've missed my share of sleep where I don't want to do it anymore, and I'll just eat a bigger meal next time.
There you go. There you go. Good deal. Well, last thing we talk about at First Detachment, we talk about being all in, right? And so the question is, what is something you're really passionate about and just all in on either now or in the near future? What would that be?
Man, like I don't want to like everything. Like I know I've got a burn the boats tattoo on my leg of like, and I don't know if you know burn the boats. It's about like going all in, give yourself no way out.
Yeah.
So like, it's like I do everything all in. But right now I think the biggest thing would be I want to expand my studio, bring in some new trainers, mentor them to do what I do. And that's probably the thing that I'm most excited about. But asking a guy who's got a burn the boats tattoo on his cab what he's all in about is like life.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, as we wind down, thanks again for coming on the show tonight, Tom. Tell everybody just a little bit about where your gym is, and just in case people want to check you out if they're ever in your area.
Yeah, so my gym's in Peterborough, Ontario, and it's like in the downtown Peterborough core. It's not something that's just kind of like open for people to come, like see per se. Like it's I would call it like a private personal training studio. It's extremely private. I don't even have a sign out front. I'm very selective as to who I allow into my world in all areas of life. So if somebody wants help, then the best thing to do is to contact me on my socials. I'm currently on a waiting list till at least September for in-person clients, and have been for a couple of years. So it's just, when you say like private, personal training studio, like it's like super private for sure.
Well, and I'm thinking too, if there's trainers that happen to be in your area that see this and looking to, learn under you and your experiences, I think that'd be great. I know we were talking a little bit before, one of the top trainers from a results and performance standpoint in Canada, right in your area as far as total production and things. So, but thanks again for joining us tonight, Mr. Rivas. Great co-host tonight. Appreciate it. And for all those out there, have a good night. We'll see you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.